She had the face of someone who believed she had already won. Jasmine laughed easily, loudly, with the kind of confidence that made people lean in. Everyone admired her. Friends, co-workers, even strangers, asking her about the wedding plans, the dress, the venue, and how lucky she was. And I just stood there quietly, watching the woman I loved perform the role of the perfect bride like it was her second skin. Her name was Jasmine. Beautiful, ambitious, magnetic. We had been together a little over 2 years, and if anyone had told me she was capable of something cruel, I would have laughed. She was the one I trusted most. People often said we were an odd couple. She was radiant, outgoing, the center of every room. I was quieter, introverted, always slightly awkward in social settings. The guy with headphones around his neck and calluses on his fingertips from coding too much. I was a software developer. She worked in marketing. I watched every dollar, planned everything with precision. She dreamed in luxury. She wanted a grand wedding, a designer dress, a live band, a 5-tiered cake, white roses flown in from somewhere across the globe. And I wanted to give her all of it. I skipped vacations, picked up extra freelance contracts, and nodded along every time she mentioned something that cost more than I could admit made me nervous. She'd kiss my cheek and whisper, "You're going to be the most amazing husband." That was a week and a half before the wedding. That night, a Wednesday, she told me she was going to her friend Kindle's apartment to finalize bridal details with her bridesmaids. I didn't question it. Why would I? We were days away from tying our lives together. But earlier that evening, I realized I had left a USB drive at her apartment, one with sensitive work contracts I absolutely needed for a client pitch the next morning. I still had a key. She knew I did. She never asked for it back. So I drove over, figuring I'd be in and out in 5 minutes. As I approached the building, I noticed her apartment balcony lights were on. Laughter spilled out from the open sliding door, glasses clinking, music playing low in the background. Sounded like a fun girls' night. I didn't want to interrupt, but just as I was about to step inside, I heard my name, stopped me cold. Jasmine's voice, unmistakable, rang out between giggles. "Caleb is just adorably dumb. Honestly, he worships the ground I walk on. And that's kind of perfect." A second voice, one of her bridesmaids, maybe Kindle, said, "But are you actually going to marry him? I thought you weren't sure." More laughter. Then Jasmine again. "Of course, I'm marrying him. He's stable. He's boring. I can do whatever I want, and he'll still be waiting at the door like a golden retriever. That's the whole point." Something in me fractured. I stayed hidden in the shadow beside the door, hearing them toast. One of the girls asked, "So, what's the plan after the wedding?" Jasmine didn't even hesitate. "Well, Trevor's flying in next month, so that'll be fun. Caleb will be working late anyway, probably building apps no one cares about. As long as I clear my texts and act sweet, he won't notice a thing. He never does." Trevor. I didn't even know a Trevor. And apparently that was by design. The girls howled with laughter. Someone said, "You're evil." And Jasmine replied, "I prefer resourceful." My hands were shaking, but I didn't move. I felt like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. A movie where the guy realizes too late that none of it was real. The affection, the smiles, the future plans. It was all just strategy. I left quietly. I never even picked up the USB. I just walked out of that parking lot with a hole in my chest so wide I thought I might actually fall through it. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling until sunrise. The wedding was a week away. Her dress was hanging in our shared closet. My suit was at the tailor. Our families had booked flights, and none of it was real. I still had the ring receipt, but I had lost something far more expensive. My trust, my hope, my belief in what we were building. And worst of all, she had no idea I knew. The next morning, I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't confront. I went through the day like I was wearing someone else's skin. I drank coffee I didn't taste, stared at screens I didn't see. My team probably thought I was just stressed about the wedding. If only they knew. At lunch, I opened the wedding planning spreadsheet and looked at the sheer weight of what was already in motion. 47 RSVP'd guests, 2 non-refundable venue deposits, a bakery that had just finished the cake topper in our initials, and a string quartet flown in from Santa Fe because Jasmine hated cheap-sounding violins. All of it was for something fake. And yet, part of me hesitated, not because I doubted what I heard, but because of how deeply I had loved her. The mind plays cruel games when you're in pain. Maybe she was joking. Maybe it was just drunk talk. Maybe I misheard. But I hadn't. Every word was etched into my skull like a knife had carved it there. That night, while Jasmine was out again, probably assuming I was home finalizing honeymoon details, I called the venue and told them we were canceling. The woman on the phone paused and asked, "Are you sure?" I didn't answer. She must have heard the ache in my silence. "Do you want to reschedule?" she asked gently. "No," I finally said. "There won't be a wedding." One call turned into 10. I contacted the florist, the caterer, the officiant, even the chair rental company. Everyone wanted a reason. Some offered sympathy. Some charged me cancellation fees I paid without argument. I just wanted it done, erased. And then came the hardest part, telling my family. My mom cried. My dad was quiet, the kind of quiet that only happens when disappointment mixes with heartbreak. I didn't give them the full truth. I just said something wasn't right, that I couldn't go through with it. They didn't push. They just asked if I was okay. I lied and said yes. Meanwhile, Jasmine kept sending me updates like nothing had happened. A photo of her trying on earrings. A message asking if I'd seen the new seating chart. A voice note of her laughing with her bridesmaids and telling me, "Hope you're not nervous, babe. It's almost our forever." She didn't know I'd already burned it all down behind her back. I didn't respond. For days, I didn't say a word. I let the silence grow between us like a living thing, wrapping itself around the fantasy she'd built until it started to crack. By Saturday morning, 5 days before the wedding, she showed up at my apartment. I hadn't told her I canceled the building key code, so she had to buzz up. I nearly didn't let her in, but I needed to see her face. I needed to know if she'd pretend, if she'd lie, if she'd look me in the eyes and still call it love. I opened the door, and there she was, radiant, rehearsed, ready to charm. She stepped inside like nothing had happened and kissed my cheek. "I missed you," she said. I just stood there. She frowned. "Are you okay?" I asked one question. Just one. "Who's Trevor?" The shift in her expression was so fast, it would have been comical if it didn't hurt so damn much. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, then darted away. "Trevor?" she echoed, like she'd never heard the name before in her life. I nodded slowly. "Yeah, the guy who's flying in after the wedding. The one I apparently don't need to worry about." She froze. I watched her lips move, trying to decide between lies. I could see it happening in real time. The gears turning, the mental panic. "I don't know what you think you heard," she started. "You said I was a golden retriever." I cut in. Her mouth opened, closed, then silence. Finally, she said, "You weren't supposed to hear that." There it was. The truth. Not denial, not apology, just confirmation. I stepped back and said the words I'd waited all week to say. "There's no wedding, Jasmine. It's over." And for the first time, she wasn't the one walking away. When I told her it was over, I expected something. Anger, denial, maybe even tears. But Jasmine didn't react the way most people would when their wedding gets called off days before the ceremony. She didn't ask why. She didn't plead. She didn't crumble. She analyzed. I could see it in her eyes. The flicker of self-preservation, not heartbreak. Her brain went into damage control mode like a PR manager dealing with a brand scandal. She didn't care about what she had done to me. She cared about what it would look like. She sat down on the arm of my couch like she owned the space and crossed her legs. Calmly, she asked, "So, what's your plan? Are you going to tell people everything?" I didn't even answer. I think I was too stunned by her casual tone. No apology, no shame, just a question about optics. She continued, "Because if you think this is going to make you look good, Caleb, you're wrong. You look like a coward who got cold feet. That's the story people are going to believe." That was the moment it really hit me. She wasn't afraid of losing me. She was afraid of losing the version of herself she had spent years constructing. The sweet, successful bride with the perfect relationship and an Instagram feed to match. I wasn't her partner. I was part of her branding, and now I was ruining the launch. I sat down across from her and asked, "Did you ever really love me? Or was this always just convenient?" She tilted her head, looked at me for a long beat, and shrugged. "I think I loved how much you loved me." That sentence might not sound harsh written down, but in the moment it gutted me because it was honest. Brutally, sickeningly honest. She didn't love me. She loved being adored. She loved being the sun in someone's universe, even if it meant that someone never got to shine themselves. I told her she needed to leave. Now, I wasn't yelling. I wasn't raging. I just couldn't stand to breathe the same air as her for one more second. She stood, straightened her blouse, and gave me one last look, and I'll never forget this. She smiled, not the sweet smile she used to give me when she whispered, "I love you," into my neck. This was different. Sharp, cold, victorious. "You'll regret this," she said, like it was a curse. I didn't reply. I shut the door behind her and locked it. I sank to the floor and sat there for almost an hour, staring at the untouched wedding invitation still stuck to the fridge. The same one she proudly designed with our names in cursive gold foil, wrapped in ribbon. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was hollow. Later that night, my phone started blowing up. Texts from her friends, her sister, even her mother. All of them echoing the same line. What happened? I didn't respond to a single one. I didn't need to. Jasmine would spin her version of the story, and they would believe her. She was always better with crowds. I was better with silence. But the one message that broke me came from an unknown number the next morning. It just said, "Hey, this is Trevor. I think we should talk." When I read that message, "Hey, this is Trevor. I think we should talk," I just stared at it, rereading it over and over as my mind tried to catch up. I wasn't even sure what to feel. Fear, rage, curiosity. Who the hell was this guy to message me, the fiancé, 2 days after I called off a wedding because of him? I didn't reply at first. I sat on the edge of my bed with my phone in one hand and the charger in the other, like I'd forgotten how to function. I wasn't sure if this was some kind of setup. Maybe Jasmine wanted him to reach out to manipulate me into staying quiet. Maybe it was a trap. Maybe it was nothing. But a few minutes later, he sent a follow-up. "I didn't know you knew. I'm not proud of any of this. But I promise you, Caleb, I'm not who she told you I am." Against my better judgment, and probably because I was so emotionally raw I didn't care anymore, I texted back 2 words. "Talk now." We got on a call. His voice was calmer than I expected. Older than me by a few years. He wasn't arrogant or defensive. He sounded tired, heavy, like he'd been carrying something for a long time and was finally ready to put it down. He told me they'd met at a marketing conference in Miami almost a year ago. Jasmine never mentioned she was engaged. She told him she was thinking about leaving someone who bored her to death. He didn't know my name, my face, or the fact that she was living in my apartment while planning our wedding using my credit card. He said their relationship wasn't consistent. It wasn't even romantic in the traditional sense. It was built on flirtation, late-night texts, 2 hotel weekends, and a fantasy. The fantasy she fed him about escaping a loveless relationship and finding someone who actually made her feel alive. That someone was him. And apparently that was all he ever was to her. A backup plan, a secret thrill, a weapon she kept in her pocket just in case. Then came the part that made my chest go cold. "She told me," he said slowly, "that you were weak, that you wouldn't leave, that even if you found out, you'd forgive her because you're too scared of being alone." I had to bite the inside of my cheek not to cry. Trevor kept going. I didn't want to believe it, man. But the way she said it, like it was a game, like it was a guarantee, that scared me. I realized I wasn't special. I was just part of her control. He told me he ended things with her a month ago, blocked her number, said it started feeling wrong when she kept referring to me like I was furniture in the background of her life. But then 2 days ago, Jasmine texted him out of the blue. "Don't worry, he'll never know. I've got it handled." That's what prompted him to reach out to me. By the end of the call, we were both quiet. I didn't hate him. I wanted to, but he sounded like someone who had also been used, not as deeply, not as painfully, but used all the same. Jasmine had manipulated both of us into playing roles we never auditioned for. Before hanging up, he said one last thing. Whatever you decide to do with this, tell people or keep it quiet, just know you're not crazy. You were never the problem. I hung up and sat in silence. And then I did something I never expected to do. I cried. Not just a couple of tears. I sobbed for everything. The lies, the wasted years, the dreams I built on sand, the person I thought I was building a life with, the man I became trying to be enough for someone who saw me as a placeholder. That night, I deleted every photo of us. Every text thread, every "I love you" that now felt like a cruel joke. And I realized something terrifying. It wasn't just the wedding I had to cancel. It was the version of me I had created to be loved by her. I didn't leave the apartment the next day. I barely moved. There's a strange kind of fatigue that comes not from physical exhaustion, but from watching the entire shape of your life dissolve in your hands. I didn't know who to talk to. I wasn't ready to face friends. I wasn't ready to hear their voices soften into pity or, worse, skepticism. Because let's be honest, when someone like Jasmine tells the story first, people believe her. And she did tell the story first. I found out from my friend Liam, who texted me mid-morning. Dude, Jasmine told people you cheated. Said that's why you canceled. I stared at my phone, unsure if I should laugh or scream. That was her move. Smear me before I could speak. It was perfect. She knew I wasn't confrontational, that I hated conflict. She'd weaponized my silence. And I let her. I called Liam. He answered on the first ring, confused and concerned. She said you were messaging your ex, he told me. She showed people screenshots. I closed my eyes and leaned my head against the wall. They're fake. I figured, he said. The grammar wasn't even yours. But she was crying, man. Putting on a show. People were eating it up. Of course they were. Jasmine could sell fire in a heat wave. I explained everything to him. What I heard, what Trevor told me, why I canceled. He believed me, but I could hear the discomfort in his voice. Like even he didn't know what to do with the information. And if someone who's known me for years had to think about it, what chance did I have with everyone else? By noon, the whispers had turned into full-on damage. Jasmine posted a polished breakup announcement on Instagram. A black and white photo of her holding a wilted bouquet. Captioned, "Sometimes love isn't enough. Please respect our privacy." Thousands of likes. Dozens of comments from her friends. You're so strong. He didn't deserve you. You'll find better. I hadn't even made a public statement. And already I was the villain. But then something happened I didn't expect. I got a DM request from someone named Lexi. Lexi had been one of Jasmine's bridesmaids. We'd spoken maybe twice. She always seemed quiet, on the fringe of the group. I opened her message with hesitation, thinking it would be another angry defense of Jasmine. But instead it read, "I was there that night at Kindle's. I didn't know you heard it, but I did too. I recorded it. I don't know why. Felt wrong. Do you want it?" I didn't breathe for a second. I typed back, "Yes, please send it." What she sent was a 1-minute voice memo. Not edited, not taken out of context. A straight-up recording of Jasmine laughing about how easy I was to manipulate, talking about marrying me for money, about how, and I quote, "He's so desperate to be loved, he'd never even know if I disappeared for the weekend." I listened to it once, then again and again. Then I forwarded it to Liam. His response was instant. "Holy S. This changes everything." The next 24 hours moved fast. The recording made its way to a few close friends. And suddenly the tide shifted. Messages changed tone. People started apologizing. Even Jasmine's sister, who had called me a spineless quitter just a day before, texted me and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm embarrassed." I believed her. Jasmine, however, stayed silent. She didn't respond, didn't try to explain. Maybe she knew the video was out. Maybe she didn't care anymore. But I cared, because for the first time in days, I felt something I hadn't felt since it all came crashing down. Clarity. This wasn't just about a failed wedding. It wasn't even about betrayal anymore. It was about truth. Finally standing in full daylight. And for once, I wasn't the one hiding. Saturday morning came, and I woke up before the sun. The apartment was unbearably quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that hums in your ears, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. That day was supposed to be our wedding. There should have been music, champagne, laughter, her footsteps in the hallway, a tux on the hanger, a kiss before I do. Instead, there was just me, unshaven, worn down, surrounded by unopened boxes of monogrammed napkins and candles we never lit. I didn't cry. I think I'd run out of tears by then. But something cracked open inside me, not like glass but like stone. Slow, painful, heavy. I looked around and realized I couldn't stay in that apartment. Every inch of it reeked of the lie I had lived. The dining table where we planned seating arrangements. The bed where she whispered promises she never meant. The stupid vision board on the fridge, covered in magazine clippings of tropical beaches and Pinterest-worthy cakes. I spent most of the morning loading my car. Clothes, tech gear, books, a box labeled Caleb's junk that she used to laugh about, but I realized now held the only things in the apartment that were actually mine. At noon, I dropped the keys in the mailbox. No note, no message, just silence. The same silence she left me in when she decided I was only worth keeping if I stayed blind. I moved into a small, half-furnished one-bedroom on the other side of town. My friend Liam helped me carry in the essentials. He didn't say much, just offered beer in silence, which I appreciated more than any lecture. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was a group chat I hadn't touched in weeks. Wedding Task Force. A group of Jasmine's bridesmaids and my friends we had assembled to help coordinate everything. One message stood out. It was from Lexi, the bridesmaid who sent me the recording. She's throwing a non-wedding brunch. It's at Kindle's. People think she's having a mental breakdown. I stared at the screen. A non-wedding brunch? Was that a real thing now? I shouldn't have cared. I shouldn't have clicked the link to the Instagram story Lexi forwarded me. But I did. There she was, Jasmine in a white sundress, hair curled, laughing with champagne in hand, like the center of gravity hadn't shifted around her. There were decorations, balloons, a sign that read, "Sometimes happily never after is a blessing." I felt sick. This wasn't grief. This was performance. This wasn't a woman heartbroken by a broken engagement. This was someone celebrating the attention, reshaping the narrative to look like she dodged a bullet instead of fired one. I tossed my phone across the room. That night, Liam invited a few close friends over, just the ones who knew the truth. They brought pizza, beer, and no expectations. We didn't talk about Jasmine. We talked about movies, video games, dumb high school memories. It was the first time I felt human again. But just before midnight, my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "You don't know me, but I think you should know something about Jasmine. She did the same thing to my brother 2 years ago. Same exact thing." I blinked. My chest tightened. "Another victim?" I replied instantly. "Call me, please." The truth wasn't done unraveling. Not even close. The voice on the other end of the call belonged to a woman named Claire. Calm, measured, but you could tell she'd rehearsed this conversation in her mind a dozen times before finally making the decision to call me. "My brother's name was Aaron," she began. "He was engaged to Jasmine a few years ago. Different city, same pattern. Fast romance, intense connection. Wedding planned within 18 months. Then it collapsed quietly, and he wouldn't talk about it for months." I sat there on the edge of my mattress, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles whitened. She continued. She drained him emotionally, made him feel like he was the problem whenever something didn't go her way. But just like you, he found out too late. She was seeing someone else the entire time, even while they were picking out centerpieces. I asked, "Did he cancel the wedding too?" "No," she said softly. "She did a week before. Told everyone he cheated. Same story she used on you. Most of his friends believed her. Some still do." A chill ran through me. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a cycle, a pattern. I wasn't the exception. I wasn't special. I was a page in a playbook. Claire told me that after Jasmine ghosted Aaron completely, he spiraled, lost his job, moved back in with their parents for a while. She said he eventually got help, but it took 2 years to feel like himself again. She breaks people, she said quietly, carefully, and then she walks away before the pieces even hit the floor. I thanked Claire for reaching out. We hung up, but I didn't move. My body felt like concrete. I tried to remember all the red flags I ignored, the stories that didn't line up, the way she always steered conversations back to herself, the way she subtly mocked my friends, how she'd make me apologize even when she was the one who caused the fight. There were so many signs. I just didn't want to see them. Later that night, I opened my laptop and did something I hadn't done in weeks. I wrote, not code, not emails, but my version of what happened. I typed out everything from the proposal to the overheard conversation, from the lies to the video to Claire's phone call. I didn't post it anywhere. Not yet. But it felt like breathing after being underwater too long. Then, almost like fate, I got a message from Lexi again. You should know she's planning something. Apparently, she's going to post a big, dramatic confession on Sunday to control the story. I didn't ask how she knew. I believed her. Jasmine was always 5 steps ahead when it came to perception. If she felt the cracks spreading, she'd try to patch them. Not with honesty, but with performance. But this time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. Sunday morning, I scheduled a post. It wasn't vengeful. It wasn't cruel. It was just honest. My voice, my experience. The voice memo was attached. Names were redacted. No insults, no personal attacks. Just truth. Simple, brutal, quiet truth. I posted it to a small blog I had once started and abandoned years ago. Within 3 hours, the post had over 10,000 views. Then 50, then 100. People started sharing it, commenting, not because it was scandalous, but because it was real. I read the comments one by one. Strangers writing, I've been through this. Thank you for saying what I couldn't. I almost married someone like her. By midnight, I received another anonymous email. No subject, no greeting, just a single line. She's done this in 3 cities. You're not alone. The email stayed in my inbox for days. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I already knew the truth. Jasmine's story wasn't about love. It was about control, reinvention, getting what she wanted, burning bridges, and walking away before the smoke got in her clothes. But for the first time, I wasn't one of her leftovers. I was something else. The blog post kept spreading, not because it was dramatic, but because it resonated. Men and women from all over the world reached out with stories of being misled, manipulated, gaslit into silence. Some had canceled weddings. Some had stayed too long. Some were still healing. In their words, I found something I hadn't expected. Forgiveness. Not for her. I'm not there yet, but for myself. Because the hardest part about being betrayed isn't just the heartbreak. It's the shame. The voice in your head that whispers, how could you not see it? How could you let this happen? But I'm done blaming myself. A month has passed since the wedding that wasn't. My apartment is still a mess of half-unpacked boxes and secondhand furniture. I eat too many takeout meals and still flinch when certain songs come on. But every day it gets lighter, quieter in the right ways. Last week, I reconnected with my sister. We hadn't talked much during the engagement. Jasmine always said she was too opinionated. Turns out, she was just trying to protect me. She showed up with coffee and an old photo album and said, let's remember who you were before her. We laughed. We cried. We made a plan to go hiking this summer, like we used to before life got complicated. I also finally emailed Claire back. We've talked a few times now, just as friends. We don't share much in common except for a strange, invisible scar, but somehow that's enough for now. And Jasmine, she went quiet after my post went viral. She deleted a few of her accounts, vanished offline for a bit. I heard from Lexi that she moved out of town. New job, new city, maybe starting over. Maybe already lining up the next engagement. But she no longer lives rent-free in my head because I'm done being the ghost in someone else's performance. I didn't get the wedding. I didn't get the fairy tale ending. But I got something better. Clarity, closure, and the beginning of something real, even if it's just with myself for now. And you know what? That's enough.